I'm a theologian, so I'll step back a little bit. Why would you address him as a son of David? Why don't you just say, Jesus, have mercy on me? Why mention David? But you won't appreciate that until you go back and find out, who is David? What gene in David should be available in Jesus so that Jesus must do for Bartimaeus what David did for Mephibosheth?
And I feel guilty about it.
I've done this 1,000 times. I'll never get tired of doing it. Show me your hands, my Mshana. Show me your hands. So you need 4 grandparents on your left-hand side. Grandparents that produce.
That was the intro to our first video, by the way.
Your mother.
Yeah.
That produce your father.
Okay.
Dad, mom.
As you're speaking, I'm trying to think how far back I go. I don't know
These
that.
two come together. There is the door. There's the first diamond sign you find on our traditional hats.
Door to what?
To life. No, 10 people with Leopold as the chairman. They sit around and they make a ruling of how Africa will be divided. And right now we have 54 presidents. They've never met.
Very evil man, but somehow no one says a lot about Leopold, but we always hear about Hitler. Leopold, who massacred people in the DRC, cut off their hands.
Judge Hlophe said something that was very interesting. Judge Hlophe, what makes the Jews more resilient than Africans is that the Jews every day, 3 times a day,
I saw that.
like medication.
They remind their kids.
Like medication,
Sometimes 2 times.
Sometimes even before you go to sleep, they will always remind themselves who are their enemies.
And their children.
And then only don't just talk about their enemies. They also talk about how their enemies must pay. To date, Germany owes
Namibia.
No, not Namibia, owes Israel.
Oh, yes.
They
Okay.
owe them money. They are paying those billions of dollars.
They also owe Namibia.
They've not even started talking about it. Germany is actually running around that. They owe Zimbabwe also. They killed 18 of our kings that right now are being used as trophies in British museums.
England owes us. Oh, Yinza.
So when you look at our history, if our history does not tell our story, if our history is not our history, it is his
Someone's
story,
history. His story.
then constantly we're going to be remaining thinking that these people are our friends. When DA and the ANC come together, South Africans feel like, no, it's progress. It's a better thing for us to do. But hey, man, just look at your enemy. They've changed clothes, but they're still the same.
I always ask, can we have unity without equality?
There is no unity without sovereignty. There's no unity without respect. True unity and independence. Independence must not be dependence. Independence must be sovereignty, where each one of us. I'm coming back to your question, where you're asking, how did we organize ourselves?
Yes.
We organized ourselves because within the Xhosa, bo Sahile, bo Khakhabe,
Oh, Yinza.
bo Hintsa, they knew that amongst them,
Oh, Sandy.
bakhona oJantshi, bakhona o Mabele, bakhona o Dlamini, bakhona obani, and each one of these houses were linked up to the great royal house. You come to the Zulu, which became the great empire that Shaka built, but within the Zulu, uPhungane ukhona, uShezi ukhona, uMyeni ukhona, uNyambose ukhona, and they made up this royal house. And even in the royal sitting itself, you find that each one of those clans is actually represented. Same thing to the Shona and the Karanga tribes. The Kalangas, you will actually have the royal house, but that is attached. But in many cases, like in the ancient Karanga tribes, Vushema Zoro, meaning that royalty we share. So in this season, it is the Shumbas running. In another season, it is the Mukanyas running. In another season, it is the show running in another season. Then here and there you find greediness, where one family says, no, we cannot share power. Then wars would break out on that. So we had a communal consultative model where the entire community sat at Likhotla. And each one of us, I love the Uganda model, by the way, where you have the 12, 16 clans, and each one of them is linked to the Waganda kingdom. Others, their job is simply to make the cloth for the royal house. Others are responsible for the food of the king. They are farmers. Others are responsible for the cattle and the skins for the king. Others are responsible for the lands of the king. So that you don't have a useless tribe within the kingdom. Each one of them. And there's such skills development within those clan settings have to do with developing the very skill. So you find that if you want the best headsmen, if you want the best tailors, if you want the best medicine people, if you want the best childbirth, whatever.
Yeah.
So each clan develops itself and its children. So you cannot wake up in the morning and say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
You know what your trade
You
or your
already
specialty
have
is.
purpose. Your purpose is written in your DNA of your history. Understand your history, and you don't have to look for a profession. You already, me for example, I'm a Karanga. When we do our totems, ndimi wana mkanya, wana shoko, wana futsi jena, chigara mboko, kugara mashamba huda, chira na wana wanji, makumbe mwana musende we shano, ndimi wana matanga kugara, wakaramba ugeza, wana mshamba ne gore, wakarimi mwana chema newe, vacheri be, mangura, na mapfuli bayo. Now there you go.
What does it say?
Miners of iron ore and those that forge it into instruments. Already in my tribe, I did not understand why I have this interest of always beating up things and fixing them, but it flows in my system. You share the totem with the kings themselves. We are the kings of the great Munumtaba Empire. So, and knowing yourself, therefore, is not counting your fingers. It's learning the tombstones of your grandfathers and your ancestors and know what skills were embedded in them. Those very same skills flow in your bloodlines.
So we come together in these likhutlas. I don't know if we still have think tanks. We come together in these likhutlas. We identify and we know our strengths, and we go out together with our strengths, with our gifts, to build towards a common cause.
The nation. That's the nation building. Even in some certain spaces, you find that there are some tribes that produce warriors. Just these are the swordsmen who it's inbuilt. Then you find others that were actually the voodoo and magicians.
All this cooking stuff.
Cooking things, and you call these people, they will build your resilience, your medicines, and etc. Then you find another one, they are just the poets. The poets who, have you heard some of those Zulus and Ndebele people singing those things, even the Xhosa people? Is that normal? That you could be talking for the
And they don't write it, ne?
It
comes there.
And it's in your bloodline. It's in your bloodline. And you look at these superb skills. I think R&B and rap music found itself late.
In my former life, I was a rapper. Yeah. But I want to go to this thing of cooking thing. You know, I always go back to where we come from as Adventists. Some of us grew up not even believing those things. Well, there are mayas, we know. But But I want to go to a recent incident that happened to me. Yeah, at FNB. I was working there last year, November 4th. My car got jammed. But in the police statement, I was so sure that I saw a white Corolla. I wrote it down. Luckily for me, I managed to find footage because I was parked to one of these Vumatel cameras.
Someone knocked your car?
No. They jammed the car and they got access with their remote mechanism. So they stole stuff. Yeah. But I written in my affidavit that I saw a white Corolla. I viewed the footage. There was no white Corolla there. There was a car, a silver Polo that looks like mine. And I'm trying to think, man, no, man. Could these guys have used umuti Is it just a matter of my mind playing tricks of me? I'm just saying it in passing. I know some of us grew up not even believing in these things. I always want to go back when I have a conversation with you. I always want to go back to matters of religion, spirituality, consciousness. Off air, I was telling you about a song that I listened to by Uthandiswa Mazwai, Iti Abenguni, the Nguni people, for those who don't understand. It makes reference to ancestors. She says, "Andihambi ndedwa. I am not alone. Ndihamba noomakhulu bam. I am with my grandmothers, no khokho bam, my great grandparents. There's nothing you can do to me. Try me." And then it goes on. I was saying to you, I don't believe in walking with ancestors and all these things, but somehow the song evokes something in me. It speaks to my
Let's
spirit.
go together.
And I feel guilty
I've
about
done
it.
this 1,000 times. I'll never get tired of doing it. Show me your hands, my Mshana. Show me your hands. So you need 4 grandparents on your left-hand side. Grandparents that produce
That was the intro to our first video, by the
your
way.
mother,
Yeah.
that produce your father.
Okay.
Dad, mom.
As you're speaking, I'm trying to think how far back I go. I don't know
These
that.
2 come together.
Mm-hmm.
There is the door. There's the first diamond sign you find on our traditional heads.
Door to what?
To life. And mothers are the door to our lives.
And this is how we make it through this earth. We come through this.
This is the genitalia of the woman.
Yes.
That it gives us access.
Mm-hmm.
So when you begin to understand Andihambi ndedwa as a song, it's not just a song. And this, unfortunately for Christianity, you don't know this, but your doctors know that. That's why they ask you, do you have a history of this? Do you have a history of this? Do you have a history of this? Because they actually understand that if there were sicknesses or diseases, abnormalities and challenges that were in your ancestral line, they could have filtered themselves.
So awami wedwa. For real.
Even the,
You are not alone.
even the hair falling off on your head. There is someone here who had that.
Tatomkhulu.
The nose that you have,
Yes.
there is someone. If we were lucky to resurrect your ancestors, maybe just 2-3 generations, and queue them over there, Otatomkhulu and their brothers and their uncles and their aunties, are you aware that we actually look at all of them and see pieces of yourself?
You know, we take pride in these things. I guess it's us being human. A friend of mine saw a picture of my daughter, and she was like, "Hey, ilampumlo yakwami good." You know, you hear it and you're like, yeah. You know,
For some of us,
assurance.
you can't miss this.
Okay.
You can't miss this. You can't miss this big blacksmith's hands.
Yes.
It's a trademark.
Yeah.
So that we when we say Andihambi ndedwa, we are saying for you to be here. That's why in Zulu we greet and say, Sawubona.
Oh, you are going to somewhere now.
Anditsho kuba
wanted to.
ndiyakubona. Ndithi sanibonani. Nibaninzi kaloku. Ndibulisa wena nezinyanya zokwenu nabogogo nabomkhulu nesende abuphuma kulona kwamama nakwababa. Ndibulisa bonke who have contributed. I greet all of them.
Why does this make us uncomfortable as Christians? Why don't we want to delve into who we are? Who we are is not who we are here. Who we are is where we come from and those that brought us here.
And we are here, we are Dali, not to be massaging colonial
You
things.
keep calling me Dali.
Taliban, Dini lenjebo.
Dini Lohlanga. That's my name. Very deep.
Dini lo unibiza nesincesi man. Dini lohlanga.
Yes, sir.
Mazibheka pha ku Matthew chapter 1. Matthew does not mix his words when he gives us the genealogy of the Messiah. I don't even want to go back into that history, which I could do laboriously. I want us to come to a man who is blind by the name of Bartimaeus. And Bartimaeus comes to Yahshua, and he says, Jesus, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. I'm a theologian, so I'll step back a little bit. Why would you address him as a son of David? Why don't you just say, Jesus, have mercy on me? Why mention David? But you won't appreciate that until you go back and find out, who is David? What gene in David should be available in Jesus so that Jesus must do for Bartimaeus what David did for Mephibosheth? Now, Mephibosheth is the grandson of Saul, who is the son of Jonathan, who fell on the back of an ant going to Lo-debar. And when David is in power, he says, is there anyone from the house of Saul that I can show mercy to? And they looked around and they found Mephibosheth, broken legs on his crutches. And the black book says, and he ate on the table of David all the rest of his lives. And when Bartimaeus calls on Jesus, he does not address him in his mental state in the present. He addresses him in the psychology of his genes, his ancestors. Akabizi uYesu, ubiza uDavida, ophakathi kukaYesu, athi nyana kaDavida, awundivele ufefe. Even if in your body you don't feel like doing it, but the ancestors that were here before you got here, they have done this thing. So dig in yourself and find healing for me. Now, when you don't understand why sometimes we behave the way we behave, we become good, we become compassionate, we become loving, we become kind, even when common sense does not allow. And sometimes even some of us, I wonder, how did I do that? Why did I do that? I didn't have to do that. But ikona lento engakuwe ethi ngabona umuntu ohlukumezekile, ubona umuntu ongaphathekanga kakuhle, and your ancestors were once in this space, and through ancestral memory, you can connect to that pain. It evokes something in you and causes you to do something that at the end of the day, we go, did I do that? Yes, you did it. But not that you thought about doing it, but because your system and your body is actually moving you.
You're making me emotional.
No, we are not just ourselves. As we behave as ourselves, we also be, even when it comes to marriages or relationships, what makes you find this person to be the right partner for you? It's only that we are not privileged with information. If you could look into them and find out what features do they have that speak to you. In some certain cases, you'd even be shocked if I can tell you on your boots that the person you are staying with, you met each other at another time, at another place, at another environment, at another timeline. And here you are again talking together as husband and wife in the present.
Where are you getting this? I want to call it knowledge, but because of my background, I keep going back to my background. I won't call it knowledge. Where are you getting this information? Because it's not information that I have understanding of, because of my upbringing in the Adventist church, which we both grew up in.
You are the one who is evoking me to talk, so I will do downloads for you, even in the present. I don't have to shake my head. I don't have to go that route. You can be spiritually connected without manifesting things. So yes, you will be able, when you sit down and you listen to your spirit and conscience, that your mind and spirit can actually lead you into the archive of information, which I'm now able to do, unfortunately.
Why is it unfortunate?
Because it sounds funny, unless your spirit picks it up, like you have, and then you notice, no man, this is no longer ordinary data. This is not book information. This is.
You know, I'm going to put my father on the spot here. I've said this to him. When I was growing up, I think I was about around the age of 5. I don't know if I would call them hallucinations, but to also protect him, amongst the believers. I think he only accepted Christ around 1986. But I remember, I think this incident of mine happened around 1985. I was taken to a woman, I would call her a so-called colored woman, in somewhere there where we live, a place called Breitbach. I remember the incident. I was quite young. And then I was given something like a pillow that I was supposed to wear here. This thing had a very strong camphor smell. You know camphor, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what camphor does. I've recently asked my dad about it. So like, what was that all about? Gestos abati waunomoy. Now, on my mother's side of the family, there was this old lady. Abantu, they talk about wayethadat. And lo mama wayengithanda. Busy. I won't say how she used to call me, but she used to call me, she used to put me on her lap. I don't know if it was that thing, but I always go back to that moment. And I know the intervention that my parents took is not an intervention that they would have probably taken today. And I always ask myself, why? And somehow after that incident, I don't remember ever having these things. So I asked Tata, Tata explained it in such a way that no, Bunomoya and that woman, I don't know, she could put together some things.
So this was a detailed sort of thing to protect you. Life is not as physical as we deem it to be. Life is dimensions of mental interactions, emotional interactions, physical interactions. But I think very little is known about the spiritual interactions. But as we close our eyes every night, we all move away from the mind. We all move away from the body. Both Christian and non-Christian. We all move away from the emotion. We all move into spaces which are totally spiritual. Some people have eaten there and they've vomited this side. Some people have been beaten by snakes there and they've woken up with scars on their bodies. Some people have been initiated there and they've come back here as totally different creatures. Some people, by the way, have died there and they didn't come back in the morning. So when you begin to speak about issues of reality, the reality is not only what we are experiencing right now. There are more dimensions of reality, even beyond what we can process. And for parents in our traditional African space to be able to understand the realms of spiritual interactions and how to protect their children using some of those methodologies, only those who are more modern and may want to look at that as sarcasm can say it didn't work. But here you are as evidence that whatever they did worked. And as such, you would find people like Elisha. And I'm saying this, Dini, with a deep understanding of the misunderstood biblical text, where Elisha would tell Naaman, who is full of leprosy, and he wants to enter his house, no, you can't come into my house. Can you please go to the river there and bath yourself, and you'll be well. And the man, William Fuller. Now, if we start talking about telling a person to go to the river and bath, it's witchcraft. But even Jesus himself,
the mud, the spit.
He went to Jordan to be baptized by. So umlambo, umlambo is a place of healing, and Naaman goes there, gets healed, as if rightly put it. Jesus mixes saliva and dust and heals another person, and Paul himself takes off his handkerchief, gives other people. They walk around other people and they touch them, and the people were healed. Which part of this are we misunderstanding? When Moses could raise up his stick and the waters would part, you touch stones and waters would be spat out. How do we fail to understand Moses raises his hands and the armies, they win? How do we fail to understand a text that is full of such paranormal behavior? Paranormal behavior, which we call miracles. And yet in our own lives, we demonize all these things as if they were evil. When in fact our African culture, and I've said this and I'll say it again, Dini, the culture that understands these things are the owners of the text. If the black book says your brother has died, go and sleep with his wife and please continue his generation. Find me a nation on the face of Africa that understands that culture. When you find them, they are the owners of the text.
Which culture is that?
Find me a culture that says, Hambu yopatala ilobol. Here's some cows and goats and money. Go and get a wife for my child. Find me that culture.
You've been around. I've only been in this country. Which cultures are these?
I'm taking you somewhere. You can tell where I'm taking you.
Let's go together.
If you find them, they are the owners of the text. So we cannot wait for white people who don't even have surnames and totems to tell us about the history of God. Akanasibongo, akanasithakazelo, ibhunda alinazo izinyanya. How can they tell us about the Lion of Judah when you don't even know who is Mngonyama?
I think we are moving somewhere. You've met one of my kids, my daughter here. She was watching one of the interviews we've had, and she says, "This man looks like Jesus." You know, I was so it it excited me when she saw Jesus.
Okay.
Can you say Yeshua?
You saw Jesus in me.
In you.
Wow, that's very interesting. But she's young, and what she sees and how she processes that, maybe, who knows? Maybe that's what she has dreamt about. Maybe that's what she has seen. Even in the midst of so much whitening of Jesus and the pictures of Jesus, for her to be able to look at a black face and identify a Messiah structure, it can only speak to the innocence of her spirit and what she actually may conceptualize as what the picture of her Jesus should look like.
I want to say let's wrap it up because I've been keeping you here for long and I was preparing, and I really apologize for your time. But I can't let you go without speaking to one of the most powerful sermons I've heard from you. It was very recent. You were at Calvin SDA Church. You were talking around, I think it's Revelation 3 or Revelation 7. You were talking about ingoma yehuno, and in the sermon you also spoke of God's forgiving nature. You spoke of the Song of Moses, which is the law, and then you spoke of the Song of the Lamb, which is Christ's forgiving and redemptive nature. Do you remember the sermon?
What
am I taking you to a space that you'd rather not be in?
It's fine.
Can we tap into that?
I would get in there, and I think the passage gets me excited on chapter 7 when you start off from around verses 1 through to 9, where, and I saw the 144,000.
That's the one.
12,000 from the family of Simon, from the family of Judah, Naphtali, and the list goes on. And then towards verse 9, it says, "And I saw the great multitude from every kindred, from every language, from every tongue, and every nation." And that passage, in terms of its context, it's all in the apocalyptic. It's all in the parousia. It's in the life within the kingdom itself. And for the black book to deliberately go to lengths to mention nationalities, tribes, languages, and tongues, I found that to be quite profound. Because then I said, our identity on earth, if it is still recognizable within the kingdom, then why are we embarrassed of it when we are still this side? In other words, makutwa tribe, languages, and tongues. Kusho makutwa amaXhosa phakamani minyani amaXhosa azophakama axense. Ungathi amaTsonga phakamani amaTsonga azophakama. Ungathi amaKharanga phakama sizophakama kaloko. But why is it that here in the shadow of the parousia, these clans, languages, tribes, and cultural expressions are deemed as evil when God in his righteousness post the second coming still will recognize us as languages, tribes, tongues, and people. And so that was the crux of the message. By the time we went on into Moses and the Lamb, it was now comparisons between the visible and the invisible, the law part, the grace part, the system, the institution, and the spiritual part. And the song of Moses and the Lamb becoming the song of we need a correct combination of leadership and sacrifice. And I think at an esoteric level, every leader, every father must have the Moses in them, and they must have the Lamb in them. That's a man of steel and velvet, where order and grace, kiss each other constantly. You can't just be known as a hard father, and tolerate nonsense. No, when the toys are broken, the father must kneel down and go and repair the broken toys. And when big things must happen, when there's a noise outside, the father must take his stick and walk outside and protect. So it was a sermon, I think, coming from a very beautiful space where I was comparing the mixture, the correct mixture of love and grace, power and understanding.
I think this is where we should end it. But as I did last time, I'm going to ask you to speak to the children of Africa, the different tribes, languages, kindred, shades of melanin, from the lightest to the darkest, like your hands. We are talking. We have been talking. It's time for us to move to a different space. We are now awake, Baba Mapong. Some of us are. But we still find ourselves in the same position. But we are concerned. We do not want our children to experience what we experienced.
We are Africans not because they call us Africans. We are Africans because we are born on this land. We have our history in this land. We have our future on this land. And until we know what killed our forefathers, it will kill us also. Knowledge of our history and our past will give us knowledge of our enemies in the present and be able to forge a new future for ourselves. The talking that you are talking about is happening because people have not yet understood what needs to be changed. We need to change the systems of governance. We need to change the curriculums of education. We need to change our agriculture and the quality of food that we are eating. We need to change our business and economics and own means of production. We need to change our entertainment and our sports. We need to change our health and our technology. Ultimately, we need to change our spirituality. These 7 steps that I've given you must be a daily routine. When you look at your plate of food, you must see colonization. When you look at the tablets that you are drinking, you must see colonization. When you are going to the bank, you must see colonization. And until another generation comes that understands how the colonial system was structured, we'll keep on fighting and exchanging hyenas with foxes and wondering why the sheep keep on disappearing. For Africa as a whole, we want to make a call, an awakening call, that let us look backwards and then we'll be able to see the future. That is Sankofa. For we are a great nation and we don't have to wait for other people to affirm us as to who we are. And part of our future slips in our past. Until we know who we are, they will define for us as to who we must become. And they will keep constantly make us footnotes on a narrative where we must be subjects. We need new political leaders. We need new bankers. We need new educators who can use their knowledge systems to rewrite a new narrative for the African continent. My name is Maponga J. Chigaramboko. Garamashambahuda. Shirana na wana wewanji makumbe mwana mwesende weshano. Zwe stedza sino kwibwana wana manga ari pedo antamba naso. Mtambori paroware. Time wakaramba kurima wakarima vanochema newe vanomushamba negore vachere mangura navapfuri vayo kwira miti yasvosve chiwere panangokuba. Until we meet again, may the ancestors of the land, the spirit of the great continent of Africa reside with you. Ase, ase.